We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Citizens of the internet, welcome to episode 72 of the Polyticks show. And thank you all for jumping on today.
Well,
Yo, we here now. Stupid.
We got a lot to talk about today. And I've put together a list of interesting stories, to say the very least, for you. Just so much going on the last couple weeks. And as you've probably noticed, if you subscribe to my channel, my video output has greatly increased in the last couple weeks. What I'm trying to do is get caught up, because I make these, I'd like to be in the same kind of cadence that a Jimmy Dore or a Dissidence is, where I put out these streams, cut them up into segments, and then the rest of the week you get, the individual bite-sized segments rather than this long form live stream. And once I get caught up, I would like to do these live streams more frequently. So maybe I was doing them Wednesday nights before, and kind of just relegated myself to Sundays because I don't make money doing this. I have a busy schedule, but it's a labor of love. I enjoy doing it. If you watch any of my stuff, you're probably someone who follows the news, someone who follows political news and all that kind of stuff. So you probably have the same kind of leanings that I do. And I thank you for tuning in if you do that. So first thing I want to talk about today is your boy Puff Daddy. He recently got into a little bit of trouble with the law. That's putting it lightly. And I want to start by showing you this video of him from Conan O'Brien from a couple years ago, because he jokingly goes into a bunch of stuff that's now, in retrospect, is very interesting, to say the least. So let me show you this real quick.
alcohols. Right.
All right, here we go.
We'll get to that later. All right. Okay. Now, we need alcohols. Right. Alcohols. Right. Not just one alcohol. Alcohols. Right. Just
Plurals.
different blend. You need
Blends.
the ladies. You need the booze.
You need some water.
For watering plants?
No.
What?
No, I don't know if guys have noticed this. Like, a lot of ladies drink water at parties. They
Right.
just, so you have, if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave.
Right.
Gotta
right.
keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little
You need locks on the door.
kinky, but
Yeah.
rock with me. But just
Right.
check it out. You need a lot of heat. A lot of
Heat.
heat. Yeah.
Heat. You mean that physically the place has to be hot?
You don't have no air conditioning.
2002.
No air conditioning.
No.
Why is that?
Heat affects the alcohol, and it also affects, like, everybody gets a little bit more comfortable and loose. Builds up a nice little sweat.
That just sounds disgusting. What are you talking about?
Depends on the way you look at it.
Depends. Oh, people
Yeah.
start getting it gets kind of sexy. Is that what you're saying?
There you, sexy. New word for you.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't saying. No, it was a new
Sean,
party.
you're in my house now, you see.
Please,
You stumbled into my house.
Please.
It's okay. It's going to be fine.
Okay, cool. Please let me finish.
Okay. Please.
You need some good music, and you need me, of course.
Yes, you
Yeah.
spice up the party. Has a celebrity ever tried to crash your party?
All the time.
Like what? Name a celebrity that tried to that wasn't invited, but so badly wanted to be at one of your parties they crashed.
Oh, I mean, this guy would have been invited. I didn't know he was in town. I had a big birthday party downtown at Cipriani's. We had everybody from Muhammad Ali to Magic Johnson, Naomi Campbell, Martha Stewart, whole eclectic group. Oh, yeah,
So everybody partied with this guy. Just to be clear, all these pictures surfacing of him and Trump and him and Hillary, you know.
Was Martha Stewart getting all sweaty? Yeah, she was. Yeah. She sexy. Wow.
All right, so that is the environment homeboy kind of created for himself. So this is from today's news. John Diddy Combs arrested, charged with sex trafficking, and ordered held without bail. So let's read this real quick. Sean Diddy Combs was ordered held without bail Tuesday after he was charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs pleaded not guilty to the charges in federal court in New York City. U.S. Magistrate Judge Robin Tarnofsky ordered Combs held after hearing from prosecutors and Combs' legal team late Tuesday afternoon. Mark Agnifilo, an attorney for Combs, appealed the decision Wednesday and lost. Prosecutors sought detention for Combs, arguing that he poses an ongoing and significant danger to the community, has repeatedly engaged in obstructive conduct, and presents a serious risk of flight, while his lawyers asked that he be released on bond. Now, Tim Dillon was saying, he's like, they're going to kill Diddy. And he's like, they can't kill him on the outside. It's much easier to do a Epstein-style suicide type deal, but let's keep going. Following Tuesday's hearing, Agnifilo told reporters outside the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan that Combs didn't do what prosecutors alleged, and he was going to fight the charges to the end. He's been looking forward to this day, Agnifilo said. Agnifilo, forgive me for butchering that name. He's been looking forward to clearing his name, and he's going to clear his name. The charges were revealed in an indictment unsealed Tuesday morning after the hip-hop mogul was taken into custody by federal authorities in New York the night before. Multiple law enforcement sources told CBS News in connection with an ongoing investigation by Homeland Security Investigations. In the indictment, prosecutors allege that since 2008, Combs has been part of a criminal organization that engaged in or attempted to engage in sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, obstruction of justice, and other offenses. So the reason I showed you that clip of him on Conan first was just to let you know that he's been doing this stuff. That was from 2002. So it's been well known that he's doing these kind of parties and this kind of stuff since 2002. Easily. Everyone knew that he was doing this kind of stuff. So here's speaking of Tim Dillon, here's Tim Dillon talking about, I'm a little lazy here. Rather than me doing this, I'm just going to show you Tim Dillon talking about some of the more lurid accusations against P. Diddy here. So here is your boy, Tim Dillon, breaking it down.
Of baby oil and lube were found during the raids, which Diddy is accused of holding freak-offs with male prostitutes. According to court documents, Sean Diddy Combs' freak-offs were arranged by high-ranking supervisors, security, household workers,
freak-offs. That makes it sound fun.
So he apparently forced people to do sexual acts, perform sex acts. Over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube were found during the raids, which were allegedly used during the freak-offs. Combs would force women to partake and would make embarrassing recordings, which he used as blackmail to keep victims quiet. Combs' team would schedule IV delivery after the days-long freak-off so the victims could recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Well, that's nice. Combs would even track women's locations and keep track of their medical records. The video was filmed in Central Park just hours before the rapper was arrested. So he was in Central Park. And what was he doing? Just having fun?
He was just taking it in.
He was just having fun in Central Park. The last day of freedom. Wow. They're going to kill him, I think. No, they are. They're clearly going to kill him. Guards are getting ready to fall asleep as we speak because there's no way that he can go out and say all of the things he knows and talk about all of the people who went to the freak-offs. That is my guess. My guess is that they're going to take him out. It's not only my guess. There are a lot of people that are thinking that. He's like the Black Epstein. They got to get rid of him. He's going to come out and he's going to say, hey, everybody from political figures to big music people to pastors, megachurch people. Like, I don't think that can go down. I think what's going to happen is he's going to feel very depressed. That's my guess, is that P. Diddy's going to feel very depressed and he's going to be sad and he's not going to want to go on anymore. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but.
So there you go. There's Tim Dillon's take on the freak-offs in the current state of Puff Daddy. But I just want to remind you of how intertwined. So again, the Conan thing was 2002. So he was talking about these parties back in 2002 that he was doing. South Park did a whole thing making fun of him back in the day for this vote or die campaign he did. So I'm going to show just a little bit of this without getting in trouble. Maybe.
Puff Daddy?
Your friend Kyle told me you don't understand the importance of voting.
So they do a whole thing where they they're making fun of this vote or die campaign that Puff Daddy did back in the day. And the whole plot is Kyle is Stan doesn't think that voting matters, and Kyle, is trying to convince him that it does.
Suck your cat. Suck your cat. Suck your...
And so just to close this out, I want to show you one last little piece of video, because there's been a lot of people talking about, like Tim here, the ties that P. Diddy, Puff Daddy has to politicians and, the elite class. So check this out.
Into sophisticated politics. We're going to talk about a problem that we have in young America. Young Americans being disenfranchised. Only 36% of us have voted. And I wanted you to speak. You're one of the few politicians that young people relate to. And we wanted to just hear the message on why you feel it's important for them to vote this year. Young people and please talk to the people that are disenfranchised, that don't believe in the power of their vote.
Well, I really think that this year more than any other, young people have their entire futures at stake. When I go to
every election is the most important election in your lifetime, isn't it?
The floor of the Senate to cast a vote, I'm casting a vote about what the economy is going to look like and what kind of jobs are going to be available, whether there's going to be health care, whether there's going to be good education. Every issue that you can imagine has a direct impact on how every young person watching is going to live his or her life. And so I would hope that this year, more than any other, people would stop and think, hey, do I want to wake up in 5 years and, have more violence in the streets than we do now, more homelessness, more people out of work, kids.
Keep in mind, this is 2004, 20 years ago. Has any of the things she was just talking about right there gotten better? Here, let me back that up just a little bit.
More violence in the streets than we do now, more homelessness, more people out of work, kids not even having a chance to get educated, hospitals closing down. This is a direct impact on their lives, and I believe your slogan, vote or die, is accurate.
That is Hillary Clinton back in 2004, a young Hillary Clinton. So let me throw this bit on for just one more second here.
Motherfucker, vote or die. Rock the vote or else I'm gonna stick a knife through your eye.
South Park is the best show ever created. So vote or die, motherfucker. Because as Clinton told you back in 2004, if you don't, homelessness, joblessness are going to increase, as they have been doing. Let's see. Let's go to the comments for just a second here. Truth violates community guidelines. Yo, did you see Politics get a silent plug on one of the clips played on? I did see that. Jimmy played my clip of AOC saying, well, to be fair, too, I want to give credit where credit's due. I stole a lot of that clip from Matt Orfala, but I cut in the shots of her wearing the Eat the Rich dress and the shots of her like over her saying like, we're going to bring the ruckus to the Democratic Party. I cut in those shots of her like on the cover of Vogue and like with Nancy Pelosi and all that kind of stuff. So I made it a little bit more, up to date, but props to Matt Orfala because it was really him that captured that video and cut that original, bring the ruckus against the Democratic Party thing together. So thanks for pointing that out, man. I did see that. I'm a religious Jimmy watcher, of course. And, Jimmy's the man. I credit him with the small audience that I do have because he played my clips back in the day. So that's kind of what spurred me into doing this. So thanks, Jimmy. I got mad love for Jimmy Dore. So moving on to our next story here. This is another interesting one, and I'm going to leverage Tim Dillon again here. And in fact, let's just start with the Tim Dillon clip here because he lays this out very nicely. And I think it's just, again, we'll use Tim Dillon to segue here. But this is, I'll just let him kick this one off because this is really good stuff. Really great stuff we got here. Whoops.
Off. If they're so good, like if this intelligence unit is so amazing, and I know that like Netanyahu doesn't really want any investigation into the intelligence failures of October 7th, but they're so good at certain things, and I guess other things are just not as great at. Small amounts of explosives were implanted in beepers that Hezbollah had ordered from a Taiwanese company, according to American and other officials briefed on the operation. I mean, yeah, here we go. I see it again. There it is. By the way, can we just comment on the produce? Looks nice. Can we just comment on the produce selection there? It does.
So I just want to, a lot of my friends who are conservative leaning, well, one of my friends who is conservative leaning, who is a great person, but he sent me these memes and I should have clipped them, but one was like, it was basically the Michael Rappaport thing, like beep, beep, ah, ha, 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 just laughing at these people that were murdered in a terrorist attack, really, by these pagers. First of all, who is still using pagers? But second of all, this is the thing that I tweeted out that I want to add to this debate here, because this is, and of course it didn't get seen, but I do want to share this thought with you as kind of the outset to this piece, because I think it's very relevant. And so I'm going to do that right now. So what I said is this exploding pager thing revealed how fucking stupid and scared shitless America is. Take your shoes off and throw away your water bottle if you want to fly, but your cell phone, which can be easily exploded, is totally fine and not worth looking at. And that's kind of the point that this person here made. How long before airlines ban cell phones like they did shoes? How can aviation safety and anti-terrorism efforts ignore the very proven fact that all electronic devices can become undetectable incendiary devices? What happens next? I truly don't know. And that is such a salient point, because look at all the stuff that we are doing to ourselves in airports here. We have succumbed to this idea that we have to do these safety measures in airports, and just out of nowhere, bam, a bunch of people's pagers blow up. So you don't think that can be done with cell phones? I mean, it's insane the level of the lack of cognitive, the lack of just common sense people have, the cognitive dissonance that people have over this kind of thing when they see this. A lot of, like I said, my friends who are pro-Israel are like, ah, ha, ha, laughing about this. And I'm just like, really, man? This kind of proves how stupid we all are.
Does look nice. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the war is ending, right? This isn't what happens before war ends. You don't hack everybody's smartphone and beeper and start blowing everything up, right? They're going to blow up my sunglasses soon. Lebanese health ministry, at least 9 dead, 300 injured in walkie-talkie explosions. Play a little bit of this.
At least 9 people are dead. Hundreds have been wounded, and that's according to the Lebanese health ministry. That blast
was like during a parade. Yeah.
In Beirut set off panic in the streets, as you can see here. That was amid a crowd attending a funeral for Hezbollah fighters. Early reports indicate the explosions took place in southern Lebanon.
By the way, my grandmother sadly passed away. My last grandparent is gone, and I'm going to a funeral, and I'm wondering if there's going to be exploding devices. I imagine not, but who knows? Not everyone in my family loves me. They're not all thrilled with me. Let's be honest. Ryan Routh,
there's Jay Dillon's take on the exploding cell phones. And I just want to show you next this report from Li Fong, who one of the last real journalists left in the world. But he did a great report here that I'm going to just plow through. Company behind walkie-talkie devices transformed into bombs also supplies the U.S. military. The second round of exploding devices were linked to ICOM, a Japanese manufacturer that supplies the Pentagon, by Li Fong. So let's jump into this, shall we? One day after pagers detonated across Lebanon, reportedly killing 12 people, including at least 2 children and 4 healthcare workers, a second wave of explosions has been reported across the country. Today's detonations were reportedly through the manipulation of walkie-talkies made by ICOM, a Japanese firm whose American branch also serves as a significant supplier to the U.S. military. The combined confirmed death toll has already reached 26, and roughly 3,000 people have been reported injured. The Tuesday explosions are primarily linked to ICOM IC-V82, an electronic receiver with both military and civilian uses. ICOM, based in Osaka, Japan, has a global footprint. U.S. government disclosures show that the company's American affiliate has received at least $8.2 million in contracts with the U.S. federal government since 2008. This includes an urgent order contract with the U.S. General Services Administration beginning 4 days ago, a spot alongside Motorola Solutions in a potentially $495 million contract selling land mobile radio supplies to the U.S. Army in June 2018, and the subcontracts through both the weapons giant Lockheed Martin and the controversial defense contractor Atlantic Diving Supply. A series of explosions in Lebanon have raised, I think Atlantic Diving Supply are the people that were allegedly responsible for the Nord Stream thing. Don't quote me on that. A series of explosions in Lebanon have raised concerns about the future of war that includes infiltration of supply chains and limitless exploits through electronically connected devices. Now, I covered this a couple episodes ago, but the United States manufactures a lot of our weaponry in China still to this day. So when they go on TV and they fearmonger about China, just remember that. And just to make sure that you know I'm not lying, let's do a quick screen share here, and let's just show you what I'm talking about. Just to make sure. Quick sidebar here. U.S. Despite sanctions, U.S. defense still sources from China. U.S. wants to decouple its military supplies from China. U.S. industrial base is not prepared for a possible conflict with China. Excuse me. U.S. wants to decouple its military supplies from China. U.S. military's greatest weakness. China builds a lot of our equipment. So anyway, the concerns that Li Fong is raising here are completely valid. Moving on, the Pentagon and ICOM were contacted for comment, but were not immediately available to respond. If a statement is provided, this post will be updated. In addition to its sales to the U.S. military, ICOM America is also a significant contractor with the U.S. Coast Guard, including through a $2.2 million subaward under General Dynamics in 2015. ICOM also sold its radios to the Civilian Federal Aviation Administration as recently as October. other governments worldwide purchase ICOM equipment, the United Kingdom records show that the British government purchased radio communication devices from the firm last year. So I think one of the things that this kind of lays bare is a guy like Li Feng can report on something like this because he does not have advertising budget from Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or any of these companies that were mentioned in this post as, you know, people supporting his journalism. When you watch CNN, when you watch MSNBC, I believe it was, I'm not sure, I think it was Glenn Greenwald who brought this up, but these companies, maybe it was Chris Hedges, you know, one of the great indie media voices has said this, but companies like Lockheed Martin advertise during Meet the Press, not because they think they're going to sell weapons during Meet the Press, but because they know that if they do that, Meet the Press is dependent on them as a source of revenue and will not do reports like this that point out how they're tied to all this terrible shit happening in the world. So, Truth Violates says, ironically, pagers being used for security reasons since cell phones were deemed to be easily compromised. That's so funny. And, you know, my pun, my play on words here was blowing up my pager, you know, because that's like what they said in the 90s. Hey, yo, they're blowing up my pager. Now they're literally blowing up pagers. But I guess what he said there kind of illustrates why they were using pagers, which I was kind of curious about. Like, why are they using pagers? Security reasons. Makes a lot of sense. So this next story is a good one. And this is one of those stories that I think a lot of people missed. And I came across this by happenstance. So I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news much lately, but Dave Grohl has been in the news a lot lately. And the reason he has been in the news is because of adultery. So he came out, and Dave Grohl came out and basically admitted that he had had a child out of wedlock. The mother of the child is still kind of a mystery, you know, probably for good reason, to keep her safe from rabid fans who would attack her. You ruined Dave Grohl. You know, people that are this, you know, super. Okay, before I do the commentary here, let me dive into this. So this whole Dave Grohl story led me down a research tunnel. And what I discovered is that Dave Grohl works with the State Department. Dave Grohl is part of the ambassadors thing that your boy Antony Blinken is running. And Chuck D was recently called out for this. Now, granted, I think Chuck D should be a lot more ashamed of participating in something like this, given his militant history. Dave Grohl doesn't really have a militant history. Chuck D does, his entire fear of a black planet, you know, and now he's working with the State Department. That is a bit of a conflict of interest. However, this is a very interesting little sidebar to take. And of course, I'm going to bring in my boy Blinken for you.
Keep on bombing lots of people. Keep on bombing lots of people.
So, just to kind of show you this little wormhole that I went down here. This is from the U.S. State Department.gov website. The Global Music Diplomacy Initiative. And this is what Dave Grohl was taking part in. But music, it gives voice to democratic ideals, the powerful and the powerless, across borders and beyond barriers, and to generations of citizens from all walks of life worldwide. Since the world-renowned composer Aaron Copland headed to South America during World War II, and the more widely known jazz ambassadors sang scat behind the Iron Curtain from the 1950s through the early 1970s, the United States called upon American musicians and artists to use music as a diplomatic tool to promote peace and democracy. Now the United States is elevating music even further through public-private partnerships with American companies and nonprofits to use music to meet the moment, convey American leadership globally, and create connections with people worldwide. So here's your boy Blinken. Obviously, you know, someone who wanted to be a musician. There's Dave Grohl on stage at the musician Dave Grohl performing on stage during the launch of the Global Music Diplomacy Initiative. Who's this? This is hip hop artist Rakim. Oh wow, Rakim's in this shit. Here is jazz musician Herbie Hancock. Sweet. Who else we got here? Jamie Barton. I don't know who that is. Costa Rica. Okay, so anyway, you get the idea. Just let's watch this for a second because this is absolutely incredible.
From the Great Muddy Waters. And if this doesn't clear the house, I don't know what.
Who is this fat Robert De Niro looking guy over here? Come on now.
Keep on bombing lots of people.
So, back to Dave Grohl. What I think is the best about these anti-Trump people is they always are the most like Trump. So I just wanted to highlight this real quick. We're not going to read this whole article, but Foo Fighters denounced Donald Trump's use of My Hero at rally, will donate any royalties to the Kamala Harris campaign. I bet Kamala Harris is proud. I bet she's very proud. So just a quick dive into this real quick. This is from Blabbermouth. Foo Fighters have denounced the unauthorized use of their song, My Hero, at a Donald Trump rally on Friday, August 23rd. The former U.S. president introduced Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to the Foo Fighters track at an Arizona campaign rally just hours after the independent presidential candidate suspended his campaign and endorsed the Republican nominee. Trump described Kennedy as highly respected and a great person before Kennedy walked out to the 1998 song. A spokesperson told Billboard about the unauthorized use. Foo Fighters were not asked permission, and if they were, they would not have granted it. Furthermore, appropriate actions are being taken against the campaign, the spokesperson continues, and any royalties received as a result will be donated to the Kamala Harris Tim Walz campaign. Now, let's just break this down real quick, because first of all, they played the song at a rally, and I wonder, you know, if the NBA uses a Foo Fighters song, they obviously have to pay for rights because there's a televised broadcast. They're charging for tickets. Does Trump charge for tickets to his rallies? I don't think that he does. I've never been to a political rally where they charge for ticket prices. You know, it's usually a free thing, and the campaign pays for it. And so, first of all, this is really just kind of posturing because they're like, oh, we're going to donate all the proceeds to Kamala Harris. What proceeds? Like, they're not making any money from the song. So right off the bat, you have this ridiculous premise to begin with. And so here's kind of the tweet that started it all. And this was from Wu-Tang's for the Children. Hey, Foo Fighters, did you let Trump use My Hero to welcome RFK Jr. on stage? And then you got this guy, Alex Skolnick, who's the guitar player for Testament, and has some very shit-lib takes. DJT and RFK, creators of these songs, Dave and the Foos, Neil Young, U2, Elton John, the list goes on, want nothing to do with your sick sociopathic behavior. Your brainwashing or otherwise well-meaning folks does not gel with the meaning of their music. So I wanted to preface all of this before we jump into this right here. Dave Grohl is catching all of the internet's heat, and Kate Hudson's too, for his admitted infidelity. So all that posturing, all that like, oh, Trump is so terrible. He's the worst person. Hey, he had sex with Stormy Daniels. Oh, it's so terrible. Bill Clinton. We're not going to read all this, but this is Vanity Fair, so I'm going to read it in the appropriate Vanity Fair voice. The longtime unofficial nicest guy in rock and roll has been dethroned, with Foo Fighters lead singer Dave Grohl taking continued hate after sharing earlier this week that he fathered a new baby daughter born outside of marriage. Grohl 55. Okay, it's definitely okay to be mad at the dude. He cheated on his wife, but this is, the tone. Grohl 55 said in the Tuesday Instagram statement bombshell that he plans to be a loving and supportive parent to her. So the one thing I will give Dave credit for in this case is he took the bull by the horns. He came out and said, hey, look, I got someone pregnant. It's not a good look, but I'm going to take care of the baby. I'm not going to have an abortion. The internet commentary is not feeling terribly loving or supportive feelings toward Dave Grohl, stepping outside his 21-year marriage to wife Jordan Bloom, with whom he has 3 daughters, and Bloom bestie Kate Hudson is allegedly right there with them. Oh, is she now? As an anonymous source told the Daily Mail Thursday that Bloom has recently spent a lot of time crying on Hudson's shoulder, and that Hudson was surprised and disgusted that at Dave's age, he's still cheating on not only Jordan, but their girls too. The pair's daughter is 18, 15, and 10 years old of his wife and daughters. Grohl addresses in his post that he's doing everything I can to regain their trust and forgiveness, though according to people, he's retained a divorce lawyer before making the announcement. So again, State Department asset Dave Grohl is very anti-Trump, and now you understand why, because he works for the current administration as a global music ambassador. What does that even mean? Like, I'd be curious to know what the pitch is for this. Like, hey, because it seems like a lot of these musicians are getting money now from NGOs or whatever, just through the State Department. And it's interesting because, of course, it shapes your politics when you're taking money from the government and showing up at the White House to play guitar with Antony Blinken before he, takes off.
Keep on bombing lots of people.
Moving on. This is kind of the banner story of the day. And, it's about everyone's favorite president, Donald Trump, and how they are eating cats. Have you heard this? Oh, wait a minute. Before we move on from the Dave Grohl story, I have to share this. I'm going to have to clip this on the end. But my final thoughts on the Dave Grohl affair before we move on. Brilliantly summed up by this poster, Jake Wellinger. Oh, wow. Okay, unfollowing now. I love Dave Grohl's adultery. Had no idea his music sounded like that. Brilliant stuff. So now we're really moving on to the next story. The banner story about Donald Trump saying the things that he said at the debate recently. But before we show you this clip, I want to start with this quote, or this is actually a couple quotes smashed together by Mike Rowe. And it was from, I just wanted, in all fairness to me, I was just looking for a quick way to clip these quotes because I think this is the sentiment that I wanted to open this with. P.T. Barnum once said, "There's no such thing as bad publicity," which is almost as good as Oscar Wilde's version, who put it like this: "There's only one thing in the world worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about." So I wanted to open with that because I think that Donald Trump is a little more clever than people give him credit for. So, and bear with me here. I want to start with this clip, of course, the now infamous debate. The only thing anyone remembers from the Trump-Kamala Harris debate. This clip right here.
In Springfield, They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
That is it. The quote heard round the world. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs in Springfield. Now, the reason I brought this up again is because since Donald Trump said that quote, the entire news cycle since then has been about people eating cats in Springfield. He's a racist for saying that. He put Haitian migrants in danger. Now that the conservatives are starting to say, oh, no, look, here is proof that people are eating cats. Some crazy lady was actually a woman from Ohio was eating cats. But now everyone is talking about migrants in Ohio. And guess what? Trump's vice president candidate, J.D. Vance, is from Ohio. One of his probably most effective surrogates, Vivek Ramaswamy, is from Ohio. So let's kind of look through the Twitter feed of Trump cats. And just to give you an idea, this is what people are still talking about. This guy did a song about it. Let's listen to his little song for a second.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
That is very clever. I like that. So here's a conservative guy. Look, new. We found it, guys. We finally found it. Donald Trump wasn't lying. Here's illegal migrants caught skinning and grilling cats. The video is obtained by real Chris Rufo, who has verified it. Okay. True. The culture in Haiti involves the consumption of cats. Also true, not all Haitians engage in this process. Also true, culturally, Assyrians do not consume cats. So here's libs of news. Sarah Haynes saying that Trump spread misinformation and conspiracy theories when he said they're eating cats in Ohio. Police just released body cam footage arresting someone in Ohio for eating a cat. Cats are more concerned about Trump. They hate him. So here's the shit.
In Springfield.
Trump trending on TikTok. They're eating dogs. They're eating cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Remixes are taking over. New song. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. So the point of me showing you all this is that, again, President Trump was right. Springfield city manager acknowledged on video that they heard complaints of domestic animals being eaten back in March 2024. Fake news, ABC, misinformation. Point being that this three-ring circus that Trump runs works every time, because the last, again, since that debate, that has been in the news cycle. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about, oh, he said they're eating cats. People have evidence that they are. People have evidence that they aren't. Whatever the case, everyone is now talking about how a bunch of Haitian migrants were dumped into Ohio, which you can debate the semantics of this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. There are Haitian immigrants all over the country, and there should be if they're countries. But I think what Trump and Vance need to address is why Haitian immigrants are coming here, because that's the thing that gets lost in all of these conversations. Why are they coming here? Well, because we're ruining their country and have been for years. The French ruined it first. Now America's, and the Clintons are a big part of that. And so I think if Trump was a little bit smarter, he could have spun that into, well, listen, like Haiti is a mess because X, Y, Z, the Clintons have been doing so-and-so. And he could have flipped that into, and all his surrogates are now doing that. But there was a clip of Vivek doing a town hall in Springfield, and I want to just find just a spot of that for you for a second. Because again, this three-ring circus about eating cats resulted in some good conversations.
You look a really good person, by the way, too, man. My name is Brock, and I've lived in Springfield 28 years, all my life, pretty much. Since this story leaked, and this is something that everyone needs to hear, the hateful language in this community has spiked. It's really, really bad. I'm half black, I'm half Hungarian, I'm half black, half white, whatever you want to say. I've become a target of the hate. I could probably count on my hand, both hands, how many times a racial slur has been said my whole life. I've been called the N-word twice this week by just people who group me. It happens. Even though my skin may be lighter, I think
This morning, quick sidebar anecdote, because he said he'd been called the N-word twice. This morning, I went to buy a vape up the street, and there was a bunch of homeless people crowding the entrance, like, "Hey, will you buy me cigarettes?" No, because they won't let people in without an ID. And this woman attacked the security guard, who was like Mexican, like he was Latino, half Latino, I think. And she started yelling the N-word at him when he wouldn't let her in. He had to physically throw her out of the building. He's like, "You can't come in without an ID." And she started screaming the N-word at him, and he seemed pretty unfazed by it. So, I'm not saying that this guy doesn't have a point, but
I think people just group us together. There's horror stories of people who are darker skinned that have been chased down by people who are white, saying, "Get out of this country." Friends of mine, friends of friends, and say, like, "Get out of here. You're Haitian. We don't want you here." Even
to be clear, those people are dipshits, and fuck those people.
with a 6-month-old baby at a grocery store. So regardless, I find it shameful and I find it inappropriate whether I'm Haitian or American. What would you say to my fellow people here in the community in regards to this rhetoric? I don't think it can be tolerated.
Tell me?
Brock.
All right. So this is a serious question. I want to take a minute to address this. I can speak some truth here. I'm in the camp of long-standing believing that the United States of America is not a racist country and the least racist country known to mankind. I have never experienced that type of invidious racism growing up. But I also want to speak a hard truth here, because there's something going on in the country right
That's because you're wealthy, Vivek.
now. When I say right now, I'm talking like the last 9 to 12 months in this country. There is a weird uptick in racial tension in this country that did not exist in the 30 years that I grew up right here in Southwest Ohio. And I'll tell you what's going on, because this gets to the essence of what's going on in this country and bothers me. Take the immigration issue. You take 20,000 people who are unprepared to integrate into a community, dump them into a city of 50,000, you're going to get a reactionary response. Then you demonize the people who have the reactionary response, who say, "Oh, you're blaming me." They're going to have ill will, in this case, towards the Haitian community. On the racial point, let me mention this too, because I see this happening. There's no better way to create racism in America, anywhere, than to take something else away from someone's family because of their skin color. So whether it's a seat in college or whether it's a job or now even forms of federal aid under the likes of Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris, say that you only get certain forms of aid if you're a racial minority, if you're Black or Hispanic.
So I just want to say there is nuance to be made on this point, because people that are disaffected, people that are of minority communities do need extra help, and they deserve it. And so this kind of debate gets a little dicey. I don't necessarily agree with everything he's saying here, but he is making a valid point about how the reaction is always blamed.
That actually creates more racial animus in response. And so this is what I think many people on the right sometimes miss, which is that, are these anti-racist programs, are they racist against whites or Asians? They are, but actually it's not just that it's racist against whites and racist against Asians. It is literally fueling a new wave of anti-Black racism in the country that otherwise would not have existed.
I don't agree with that. I really don't. I don't think that they're like race. So it's like the anti-Semitism thing, right? The ADL fuels anti-Semitism, and Israel fuels anti-Semitism more than any, standard Jewish person does. And I think with this kind of thing, that's a valid point to make to an extent. But I don't see anti-Black or racism as, I'm not in Springfield, Ohio, but I don't see, sure, there are racists still. There are dumb fucks. Like I said, I just heard a woman yelling the N-word at a guy this morning. She was a homeless crackhead, of course, like but those are the kind of people who yell racist slurs at people, homeless crackheads and people that are on the same mental level as those people.
If it weren't for those woke anti-racist policies in the first place. It is divide and conquer. It's the media. The media's throwing kerosene on this. And so here's what was happening. It's like the final embers of racism were burning out in America. And then they're throwing kerosene on it all over again. It is a divide and conquer strategy They want to divide us on ourselves. And you know who it's up to make sure they can't get away with that? It's up to us. It's up to we, the people, to say hell no to that vision. You will sell us this myth that we're divided. You're going to try to pit us against each other. But you know what? We, the people who are citizens of the United States of America, are the people who we actually elect a government to represent. And all of us are American, regardless of our race or creed. And that's what made this country great the first time around.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And so, again, the point here is that because of Trump's comment about people eating cats, these kinds of conversations are now being had. So while at the time I was like, what an idiot to say that, now in retrospect, I'm kind of like, there it is again. There's Trump dominating the news cycle by saying something stupid that, you know, everyone on his side, of course, is going to try to defend and find evidence to back up. And everyone on the other side, of course, is going to say anyone who believes it is a racist and anyone who supports it is a racist. And Vivek's right about this divide and conquer tactic. And I see it happening again as coalitions are starting to form. And not to pick on due dissidents, but, you know, their thing with Daryl Cooper, it's like, okay, dude, so some racist people came at you defending Daryl Cooper. That does not mean Daryl Cooper is a racist. Listen to the stuff Daryl Cooper puts out. Like, listen to what he's actually doing, his content. He's not a racist. He's clearly not a racist or Nazi or whatever they're calling him. But it's easy to hang that shit around. It's easier for the press to convince people that he's a racist and sick fucking Sally Albright's bot armies on people like due dissidents to foment anti-Semitism or whatever, than it is to actually listen to Daryl Cooper talk as a person and dispel the myth that he's a Nazi. At this point in time, unless someone directly comes out and says, hey, I am a Nazi, I don't believe that they're a Nazi. Look at how many, they tried to say Bernie Sanders was a Nazi. Do you remember that? Chris Matthews literally compared Bernie Sanders winning in Nevada to a fucking the invasion of Normandy or some shit. Like and that type of rhetoric gets used without any merit, you know? And like this guy talking about people calling him the N-word and stuff, and he's reading a thing he wrote on his phone. Who knows who this guy is or how he got in there, or if someone handed him that question. I'm not, you know, maybe not. Maybe he just had to write it down on his phone. But the fact that that guy, a few people called that guy the N-word or whatever, does not make everyone in MAGA a racist, or everyone that is concerned about the immigration thing a racist. And again, Vivek and all these people continually gloss over this shit about how these immigrants got here in the first place. Why is Haiti in chaos? Why do Haitians have to leave their country, guys? Why? Let's talk about that, because the reason that these migrants are coming to the United States is our fault. And, you know, even the NAFTA thing and just the way that globalism has kind of decentralized the economy and made a lot of people poor, you know, it's, people are mad about it, and they have a good reason to be mad about it. And, you know, I don't think that rational people would ever blame immigrants for their problems. They would look at the people at the top that are responsible for all the immigrants coming into the country. I've said this 1,000 times. If you want to stop illegal immigration, start going hard at the companies that hire illegal immigrants. If you start sending SWAT teams into Walmart every week, or, you know, Tyson Chicken, or, you know, Factory Farms to check ID and penalize the company for every person without valid United States citizenship that's in that building, that problem will stop real quick. But now you have a problem where it's hard not to believe that they don't want this problem to be exacerbated. There are so many interests that benefit from it. Companies like Tyson Chicken get cheap labor. Companies like CCA, which changed its name, these for-profit prison companies make money jailing illegal immigrants that are led into the company. You know, they have beds to fill. They have quarterly profits to make. So the real deep entrenched reasons that there are so many migrants coming to the United States are never talked about by the right or the left. So this is going to be kind of a fun piece, and it's tied to this. I'm going to flip these around. I have another piece about TikTok and the TikTok ban that I was going to do now, but I'm going to flip these around because I think this conveniently moves into what we are just talking about. And this is during COVID, John Oliver did a takedown piece on Tucker Carlson. And I wanted to revisit it because at the time that this piece came out, I was a John Oliver fan and not a Tucker Carlson fan. And so John Oliver makes the case here that Tucker Carlson is a violent white supremacist racist. And I thought it would be fun to kind of cover this and, basically debunk or I guess rebut some of his points. Now, I know that I can't show HBO's clips without getting in trouble, so I'm going to try to dance around this a little bit by doing my best John Oliver impersonation, and then just showing you the clips of the points he's making. So this is going to be a fun little experiment. We'll see if it works. And let's get into it. Here we go. So this is John Oliver from last week tonight's takedown of Tucker Carlson. So this very first point he makes here is about China and things that Tucker Carlson said about China. So let's listen to what Tucker Carlson says here. And then I will play the part of John Oliver and respond to the clip. Here we go.
Of a firestorm. So we've got new hairstyles and maternity flight suits. Pregnant women are going to fight our wars. It's a mockery of the U.S. military. While China's military becomes more masculine as it's assembled the world's largest navy, our military needs to become, as Joe Biden says, more feminine, whatever feminine means anymore, since men and women no longer exist.
What are you performatively outraged wedge salad? How dare you say that China's military is better than ours? We need to do wars and stuff. And how dare you complain about, these feminized military people and us trying to have more trans and calling out that China's military is going to be more stronger than ours. And so, here he's showing how the Pentagon came out and denounced Tucker for saying that. And but is Tucker wrong about this? First of all, what does this have to do with him being a white supremacist? But second of all, is he wrong about this? The kind of degradation of the U.S. military. It gives credence to the conspiracy theory that Joe Biden and the Democrats are like bought out by the Chinese, that they're secretly being influenced by the communists. So that's kind of, I think, the conspiracy theory connection that Tucker is trying to make here. And of course, he's a racist or an anti-trans for that. Tea and crumpets, pinching me bobbins. Oh, yeah. Oh. I like a little spotted dick. Okay, so the next one. White supremacist. Here is where we get into the proofs that Tucker Carlson is a violent white supremacist. Did I miss the clip? Okay, here it is. Hold on a sec. It's coming.
Nationalism. Let's be literal for a minute. What is that exactly?
I don't even know what white nationalism means, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you now.
Why doesn't anyone ever define white supremacy? What is white supremacy? Can somebody tell us in very clear language what a white supremacist is?
Okay. First, very clear language.
First of all, Tucker Carlson looks like, I wrote this down. This is what he actually says. He has the befuddled face of a 13th century farmer who's having Bitcoin explained to him. But the point Tucker's making is a valid one. The term white nationalist is a dog whistle term that Democrats use to call someone a racist. A nationalist is someone who cares about their country. There are Black and Asian and Hispanic nationalists. And I think that it's easy to kind of try to paint someone like Tucker as a racist because he's a conservative. And as I get older, you know, I'm not saying that I'm a conservative now, but I understand the mentality that, hey, we want to keep our lifestyle intact. You know, we like the lifestyle we have and we want to do what we can to preserve that. That's basically what Tucker is arguing for here. And, you know, there's no denying that globalism is inevitable. You know, we're going to live in a global economy. The world has been made smaller by communications and technology, and that's just inevitable. However, we can still be a sovereign country. We can still have, you know, set borders. We can still have a set of laws that people have to adhere to come into the United States. You know, we can do our best to stem the flow of illegally entering people, and it has nothing to do with their race. It just so happens that the southern border is the most, you know, porous because it's the most landlocked and the most comfortable. You know, if you try to come through Canada, you got to deal with forests and ice and all kinds of stuff like that. I'm sure people do it though. But you know, because that happens to be the problem, it's easy to be like, oh, this guy's a racist against Mexicans. So the next little bit here, blah, blah, Tucker Carlson, racism, Tucker Carlson, racism, white supremacist, white nationalism. I've been told. I'm sitting at home during COVID calling Tucker a white supremacist. One of the things he talks about too in this piece is how much influence that Tucker wields. And if you listen to Tucker Carlson now, it's probably a good thing. He seems like a genuinely good person. And I say that with all sincerity. And you're going to see these clips that homie pulls to kind of illustrate what a racist he is. They actually work against him, especially now. So one of the things he pulls out is this kid who came out as trans, who's the son of the Stormfront, the white pride guy from Stormfront. This kid came out as trans, I guess, and speaks out against his parents and stuff. And so he went on CNN to do some propaganda against Tucker Carlson.
White supremacist site on the internet talk about just.
Emily watches Tucker Carlson's show once and then watches it on the replay because they feel that he is making the white nationalist talking points better than they have, and they're trying to get some tips on how to advance it.
Yeah, they watch it once to enjoy it and a second time to learn from it.
So yeah, this kid is saying that his parents, who are white supremacists, watch Tucker Carlson, which of course, you know, Puff Daddy supported Hillary Clinton, which means that she is a, you know, violent anti-woman sex trafficker too, right? Because they're associated, you know, anyone who listens to P. Diddy is clearly supports sex trafficking. And, you know, this is just the jump that these people have to make. A white supremacist watches Tucker Carlson and likes what he has to say. Therefore, Tucker Carlson is the voice of white supremacists. So just to keep going into this, pinching me bobbins, tea and crumpets. Oh, no. Drew Barrymore is one of my favorite people, and I try to watch her to learn how a kid can make a Shirley Temple while Stanley Tucci is drinking some wine behind him. Pinching me bobbins. All right, so here is they kind of go into the history of who Tucker Carlson is right here, and John Oliver makes some great jokes about. You know, how the only way he could be more white is if he were like ejaculating mayonnaise or something like that. So now they get into, you know, why Tucker is a racist. And this quote right here is some of the best proof. Racial solidarity wasn't a working concept in my Southern California hometown. Most people barely had last names, much less ethnic identities. So what he's saying there is like, when he grew up in the Bay Area in San Francisco. I don't know if he grew up in San Francisco, but he definitely grew up in Southern California. He's a rich kid, but he spent time in San Francisco among those people. And yeah, like that makes sense. Like people weren't really concerned about what your race was. And so John Oliver kind of illustrates how his dad married like the heiress of the Swanson college. And so this is kind of like how Tucker got into politics. He Everyone else is at lunch. Can you do it? Someone called and needed someone to do something. So he got into a career on TV through the O.J. Simpson trial. And so, as you know, one of the major proofs that he's a racist, John Oliver shows this clip of Tucker talking. It's like his first thing he did after the O.J. Simpson trial. So check this out.
The race to race? Oh no, of course not. I mean, you know, everybody is terrified of one thing. You know, whites are of course terrified of being called a racist. Blacks are terrified of being belittled. Of course, I think we need actually probably less conversation about race. I think it might do us good were we to ignore the subject a little bit and treat each other as if there were no color boundary separating us. I think that might be helpful. I think we talk about it in some ways too much.
Okay. Only a racist would say something like that. You have to be a white guy who says that stuff like that. Why do we care about race? Because you're white. Because you're white. You don't know. You're white. And I'm white too. And I don't know why I'm saying this because I don't have any real reason to be commenting from the perspective of a person of color. I'm a white British guy who eats tea and crumpets and pinching me bobbins.
So, you know, that is the evidence of young Tucker's racism. Grab my notes here. So the next thing they talk about is Pat Buchanan. And so Tucker Carlson has kind of a complicated past to some degree. Now, obviously, that was very salient what he said, the discussion about race. It's like, what we shouldn't, you know, have everything shouldn't be hyper focused around that. Now, I disagree with Tucker when he says there's no such thing as systemic racism and that kind of stuff, because that's a very provable reality. If you look at statistics and you just look at the things that are happening in the world, if you look at, you know, the way that the police forces came out of slave patrols, there's all kinds of, you know, the way that lynchings and all the kind of stuff that happened during Jim Crow, like there's just no doubt that that is systemically tied. But the fact that Tucker Carlson doesn't believe that doesn't mean that he's a racist. It does mean that he's a little bit sheltered. He obviously grew up in a very rich neighborhood and, you know, hasn't had to deal with a lot of the material realities that people of color or people of a lower income bracket have had to deal with. So the next thing Oliver does here is he tries to tie Tucker to Pat Buchanan. So at this point in time, Pat Buchanan was widely called a racist. Why? Because he made arguments similar arguments to Tucker Carlson and all these people. And so the way that they were easily able to dismiss a voice like Pat Buchanan back in those days was to call him a racist. They did it to Ron Paul. You know, they do it to everybody that they want to kind of push out of the conversation who's saying anything that might be, you know, a little bit of a third rail. So at this point in time, too, Tucker was a conservative shill. So he goes on C-SPAN and basically talks shit about Pat Buchanan. So listen to what he says right here, and we'll talk about it.
Pat does raise issues that I think are important. Unfortunately, Pat Buchanan raises them in a way that I think is discredited. And when attacked, he can always fall back on the line, well, the tiny cabal that controls American politics doesn't like me because I speak truth to power. This is actually, incidentally, almost verbatim what he said the other day, that I offend the plutocracy, that I'm a wanted man by the inside the Beltway people, and in every sense cast himself as a victim who is sort of a Karen Silkwood of politics, someone who's so truthful that he's being hunted down by the conspiracy that runs Washington. I mean, it's all a bit much.
Yeah, you're right, Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker, that's what you do, buddy. Oh, that's what you do. Here's a clip of you 20 years ago before your political opinions changed, decrying the thing you do now. See, what Tekashi 6ix9ine, here's a pop culture reference because I want to make sure that you know that my writers pay attention to pop culture. So anyway, this whole thing right here is interesting because Tucker Carlson has said repeatedly that he renounced these views. He was a stand for the Iraq war. He was a neoconservative. And then he went to Iraq and realized that he was completely wrong about a lot of his viewpoints. And so what he's saying about Pat Buchanan right here, that he was an enemy of the plutocracy,
1,000% accurate and 1,000% applicable to Tucker Carlson today, because he is that person today. He wasn't that person when that clip was filmed, though. He was a neocon, and he has fully come out and addressed that and admitted that. So let's see. This is the let's see, 10:30 here. So okay, listen to this. So this is actually a really good piece of tape. So they pull these clips about him saying, "Oh, immigrants are going to make us poorer, dirtier, and more divided." And he's not wrong about that, but he's not pointing specifically to any race. The argument he's making is that economically, letting all these people pour into the country, they use up services and tax dollars that Americans could be using. And that is a valid point to make. There's nothing racist about that. Pinching me bobbins, tea crumpets.
You've seen it a million times. It happens all the time. The enforcers scream racist on Twitter until everybody gets intimidated. It's a tactic, a well-worn one. Nobody thinks it's real.
This is what's happening to Daryl Cooper right now, because he's touching third rails. I think, when I look at what's going on with the Daryl Cooper thing and why everyone's calling him a Nazi, my personal opinion is because of the Epstein piece he did. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. It's insane. He goes into full detail about who Epstein was, who he was tied to. It's in intricate detail. And so he's a racist, of course. He's a Nazi. Anti-Jew Nazi.
And it won't work with this show. We're not intimidated. We plan to try to say what's true until the last day. And the truth is, unregulated mass immigration has badly hurt this country's natural landscape.
Oh, fuck off, Tucker, you relentlessly indignant picket.
You relentlessly indignant picket fence. How dare you say that? Oh God, I'm an immigrant from Britain who became a naturalized citizen because I'm a very wealthy superstar.
John Oliver just completely discredited himself with this kind of garbage. And I'm probably playing too much of it to get by the censors here, but hopefully not. Let's keep going though. I got a couple more little points from this. So okay, the last little bit here is where he really goes in hard on the racism. So I kind of clipped up here to this is the proof that Tucker is a racist. The stuff he says about Ilhan Omar. So
here's some proof. You got a picture of me bobbins. Here's some proof that Tucker Carlson is a violent racist who hates black people and wants them all to
There are
die.
many of us here who do like this country. We live here. We don't want to destroy it. We have every right to fight to preserve our nation and our heritage and our culture.
Wow. Preserve our heritage and culture.
So this is the point. So, okay, I want to back it up so you can see what Ilhan Omar said too, because that's important context. Listen to what she says right here.
As long as our economy and political systems prioritize profit without considering who is profiting, who is being shut out, we will perpetuate this inequality. So we can.
I think there's probably a lot of points that Tucker would agree with her on here if you listen to the way he talks now. But I think that the way she's saying it too, she's framing it in kind of like a way that clearly offends
Not
Tucker.
stop at criminal justice system. We must begin the work of dismantling the whole system of oppression wherever we find it.
So that's what triggered Tucker Carlson. Listen to what he said.
American economy and the American system of government, institutions that generations of Americans built over hundreds of years.
All right, there is already enough there.
Okay, so this is his proof that Tucker Carlson is a racist. Okay, I want to show you this because this is the proof positive.
pinching me bobbins, spotted dick.
Here who do like this country. We live here. We don't want to destroy it. We have every right to fight to preserve our nation and our heritage and our culture.
Wow. What a racist. So that is so okay. So here's what this is the thing. And I have to again compare this to Daryl Cooper because they're putting words. John Oliver is literally putting words in Tucker's mouth and making this gigantic logical leap to say that what he's saying is this white supremacist, racist talking point. So here, I'll let it go for a sec. I want to show the actual. So we must. So this is what he's like. So this is from some kind of racist thing that some KKK guy said or something. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. So, and this is where he compares what Tucker said. We have to fight to preserve our nation and heritage. So, of course, like that's the same thing. You know, since Tucker said we have to fight to preserve our nation and our heritage, that means we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. He said nothing about white. He said American. But that's the jump that these people have to make. And then he goes on to make a very clever joke. Okay. He's clearly a racist, as you can see. He said something that I had to paraphrase. If you put this into Microsoft Word, the paperclip will come up and say, "Oh, you're a white supremacist. Look, see, I work for Bill Gates and Microsoft." And here's a joke about how the Bill Gates Microsoft clip has been watching YouTube and it's been radicalized by YouTube, the place you're watching this clip now. Pinching me bobbins. Tea and crumpets. Why is a fucking British guy telling Americans what's true and what's not to begin with? Like we jettisoned you guys. Now you're coming over here and telling me who's racist and who isn't. Get the fuck out of here. Sorry, Brits. I love you. You know, but I wouldn't come over to Britain and be like, "Hey, you guys need to go elect," you know, you guys need to elect Keir Starmer. Ah. All right. So we're winding down here. This is the evidence of bigotry. And this is probably the most, you know, salient. Okay, so listen to this. It's a threat to our cohesive okay.
Western civilization is our birthright. It makes all good things possible. Undefended, it collapses. And so we've got to fight to preserve it. It's a war with one side trying to erase all remnants of its opponent, in this case, Western civilization.
See, this is where, too, when Tucker gets into this stuff, that it's like the spiritual war shit that conservatives love to mythologize. It's not that. I mean, okay, you could say, okay, listen, I'll give it to you. It is good and evil, but the evil is people that want money. It has nothing to do with the erasure of civilization or blah, 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 blah. No, Tucker, it's not that deep. It's these fuckers make money by the problem staying in place. There are too many wealthy interests that benefit from an open border. That is why the problem can be. It's not because they're like trying to erase America forever and like kill civilization. No, they make money off a fucking open border. It's that simple. It's not this deep God versus Satan bullshit that you myth buyer people think it is, the fairy tale people.
The culture into which they're coming. The Western civilization we're talking about, superior to the culture that these immigrants are bringing. Do you think it's possible to move on?
Okay, and again, this is what the due distance people would call Western chauvinism, or what smart people would call Western chauvinism. It's not racism, but it definitely sounds racist. He's like, "Oh, well, people who aren't American," you know. This is old footage too. I think if you sat Tucker down now and looked around and say, like, "You really think we live in a democracy, Tucker? Like, you really think that we're the best? That, you know, everybody like that comes from other countries we should look down on?"
You know, I mean, he said this off the cuff, and it's kind of not very bright of him to say. It is very Western chauvinist, but again, it's not proof that he's a Nazi.
A large Muslim population into the West and successfully integrate them into Western culture. Have you seen
That's
that
already
anywhere?
happened.
Yeah.
That's already happened. We already have a large integrated Muslim culture here.
For Tucker, it seems West.
Jimmy Bobbins, sporting dick, racism. I'm on HBO. I'm an immigrant. Blah 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 blah.
So there's one piece right here I want to show you. He does say some racist shit about Iraqis. So this is
Jimmy Bobbins, Bubba the Love Sponge.
So Tucker used to appear on Bubba the Love Sponge in the early 2000s, and he said this, 2008. Iraq is a crappy place. I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use to it. So that is racist, of course. But also that is Tucker before he changed his views. He was a neocon here. This is the same Tucker that said Pat Buchanan was dumb to call out the oligarchy and the plutocracy for trying to cancel him back in the 80s and 90s. That's how they canceled people. They just said, "Oh, he's a racist," clearly. So I think I have the clip. I'm gonna look, but I'm pretty sure I have the clip of Tucker talking about when he changed. Maybe not. No, I don't. I don't have it, so I'm not going to waste time looking for it. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. I should have dug that up before the show. Anyway, to finish this out, this is the prime evidence of bigotry that they showcase here.
Jimmy Bobbins, Tucker's a racist. Listen to what he said to this Mexican
I'm for
guy.
getting along. I'm for colorblindness. I'm for tolerance, 100%. But I also think that if things radically change in your country, it's okay for you to say, what is this? And maybe I don't want to live in a country that looks nothing like the country I grew up in. Is that bigoted?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yes, you're a racist. Of course you're a racist.
So, again, both sides do this. Both sides do the scary white people now. The Democrats are scary white people, and the Republicans are scary Muslims. They both do this crap. And the idea that Tucker Carlson is a violent white supremacist racist is completely ridiculous. And so he kind of ends off by saying, like, look, even David Duke supports him. David Duke says some stuff, you know. And again, Hillary Clinton supports Puff Daddy. Hillary Clinton talked. Does that mean that she's a sex trafficker? No, it doesn't. It's the whole thing is ridiculous. So I will not agree that someone is a violent racist or a pedophile or any of those terrible things unless there is 100% confirmable evidence of them being just that. A bunch of cunts saying it on TV or on the internet does not make it true. Thank you. All right, we got one last piece before we close out, and this is just about the irony of what's going on with the Democratic Party. Maybe a little out of place in the roster here, but basically, it's pretty well known that the Democrats are going to ban TikTok, right? They have already passed the bill, and I believe that it's tied up in appeals. But we're going to get a quick update here from Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. on the same page as the TikTok ban. Check this out. I need a news update here. I haven't even really been following this story as closely as I should be.
The DC-based federal appeals court, sometimes referred to as the second most important court in the land, heard 2 hours of oral argument this week over whether the federal government can force TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance to sell off the social media app. This all happening as the clock is ticking on Congress's de facto ban on the app, set to take effect in the coming months. Now, joining us to talk about what happened in court, Politico's Christine Mew. Christine, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you heard her. It's already banned, and they're trying to figure out what's going to happen.
Me, Katie.
Christine, you covered this case. There were 2 hours of oral argument, including the chief judge on the panel, and they really grappled with the law here and said it was unique. They'd never really seen anything like it before.
Of course not.
You're right. So TikTok's outside lawyer, was up first, and he argued before the 3-judge panel that the law is unprecedented for its singling out of a foreign-owned company, and that while the national security concerns that prompted the law was speculative, the effects of upholding this legislation would be staggering for other First Amendment right holders. And judges seemed, puzzled as both sides tried to come up with some sort of historical precedent for a similar situation.
So the 3 judges, in trying to grapple with this, one of them was Trump appointed.
The similar situation they would pull up is when communist outlets were banned back in the day, which is widely looked at as a blemish on our history.
Naomi Rao, who said, we like to think of this as something that was passed by an agency, but this law came from Congress. And this is really a strange way for courts to second guess what she said was the first branch of government.
Yeah, this was in response to arguments from TikTok's outside lawyer. And, she said.
So just to rewind just a little bit, do you remember why they banned TikTok? Do you remember why? Because of anti-Semitism. That's why they're banning TikTok.
ADL is played out. Nobody knows who the ADL are. Stop giving them attention. Nobody cares about the ADL.
In his questioning of Congress's motives for passing a law like this, he was really thinking about it like he was treating Congress like an agency here. And you're right, she did say this was essentially a very strange framework and is essentially ignoring the fact that Congress, in this case, did pass a law, regardless of not if TikTok felt that those motivations were clear or justified at the time.
So now, after covering all 2 hours of it, where do you think they're going to come down?
Yeah, I posed this question after the oral arguments to several legal experts, and all pretty much agreed it's kind of hard to tell. Neither side got a clean path. It did appear to me that TikTok's lawyer was asked more critical questions. And outside the courtroom, I actually asked a lawyer who's representing Base Politics. This is a media nonprofit that's also challenging the law. And he said the same thing. There are similar questions. There are challenging questions for both sides. And he wasn't reading too much into, who got more questions, and essentially there is no telling of how any given judge is going to come out of this, was his view. I should also say that many expect whoever the losing side is to appeal the case up to the Supreme Court. And, if it agrees to take it up, so the final decision won't be made here.
There was some coverage of the case that it was Andy Pincus representing TikTok, no stranger, of course, to appellate courts and even the Supreme Court, anticipating perhaps, as you just pointed out, that they will go up to the Supreme Court, or at the very least, the full DC Circuit Court. But over the course of the 2 hours, did you get the sense, as some have suggested, that TikTok was really fighting for their life here?
Yeah, I definitely got the sense that TikTok was fighting for its life here. The judges had all sorts of tough questions for TikTok. What type of scrutiny applies here? Should it be strict scrutiny, as TikTok was arguing, or intermediate scrutiny? There's back and forth about TikTok at what point brought up an alternative, like warning labels, like this U.S. Surgeon General has previously suggested for social media platforms. Judges appeared kind of skeptical of whether that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we need. We need the Surgeon General in the health complex censoring TikTok so we can't get recipes that are non-diabetic or whatever. Jesus Christ. So just to close this out too, just to kind of put the icing on this cake for you, this is like she said, TikTok is fighting for its life. Meanwhile, this was the Democratic convention this year. Hottie Dems and Chapel Roan stands meet the 200 TikTokers who scored access to the convention. This is from The Guardian. This is by Elena Demopoulos, and it was posted the 22nd of August, so about a month ago. Amid a groundbreaking effort to credential social media stars, influencers are offering an intimate look at the event and occasionally clashing with journalists. More than 200 content creators hit Chicago this week, bringing their ring rights. Ring rights? What does that mean? Ring lights, excuse me. I need to get better glasses. Their ring lights and attempts at business casual as part of a historic push by the Democratic National Convention to credential non-traditional media. Memes had fueled the initial excitement surrounding Kamala Harris's 11th hour presidential bid, and the campaign aimed to churn out more viral moments by granting the creators access during this crucial week. Many, if not most, of the creators paid their own way to Chicago. Some were sent courtesy of political action committees on the convention floor. They have danced to Chapel Roan, landed interviews with lawmakers like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Raphael Warnock, and filmed Get Ready With Me videos of their convention outfits. Is their content breaking through? So this is all amid the backdrop. These people were sent to the DNC to support the party that's trying to ban the platform they're making content on. This is from Twitter. How Americans consume their news is vastly different in 2024. Look how close the DNC's content creator platform is to the stage. Dems have credentialed hundreds of influencers to document the convention this year. A Wired dispatch from one influencer after party described a scene that included special couch for JD Vance, a wall of weirdos with photos of Republican leaders, a wall of Democratic hotties, so the couch, because he had sex with the couch, I guess, with photos of Republican leaders, a wall of Democratic hotties like Travis Kelce, and an arcade room with abortion access skee ball. Liz Plank, a journalist and creator with over 589,000 followers, posted a video from the party in which she asked men who tried to buy her a drink to donate to an abortion fund instead. Not all of the content coming out of this event is pro-Harris. Charlie Kirk, founder of the right-wing organization Turning Point USA, posted his videos from the convention floor, including one which he goaded the president of the Young Democrats of Georgia with the question, "What is a woman?" Barry Weiss's The Free Press put together a mashup of interviews with Harris voters struggling to name one of her policies. But the majority of creators present support Harris and want their viewers to as well. Re-elect Kamala Harris so she can ban TikTok and you can stop making videos. That is the state of the Democratic Party as we know it today. And that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you for sticking with me. Hopefully we touched on some stuff that you haven't really dug into yet, specifically that Dave Grohl thing. I think that's probably news for a lot of people that he's working with the State Department. But I'm going to get out of here. I got some work to do, and hit me up in the comments. Share some stuff with me. Let's talk. Hit me up on Twitter at Road Grimes, and like and subscribe, all that good shit. You know the deal. Take good care of yourself out there in this trash economy, and we will see you next time. Sorry, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go to the comments before we go because I have not been doing this. This tune is gold. I think he was talking about my Blinken sketch here. Just play that one more time.
Keep on bombing lots of people.
Sorry, guys. There's actually a lot of comments today, and I have not been. Thank you for the kind words on the. Desert Mantis says the U.S. wants to colonize the world while maintaining the Monroe Doctrine in the Western Hemisphere. It's all part of international rules-based order. Yeah, and it's obviously not working, so we should probably change it, right? Let's see what else. Desert Mana says, Ramaswamy omits the role of government austerity among U.S. working class. Austerity puts propaganda on the other for their troubles. Yeah, I totally agree. I also think, again, the austerity thing is the result of them letting people in. You know, it's like, we got to tighten our belts now. No, like, we're spending tons and tons of money in other countries. Like, let's bring that here. We don't need austerity. Also, the money that we're spending in these other countries is causing the refugee crisis, isn't it? True villains are the ruling class. They want to maintain the control of the working class and keep distracting the workers with symptoms. I couldn't agree more. Truth violates community guidelines, says, I'm not white. I don't want to hear shit about white supremacy unless the person has the balls to talk about Jewish supremacy. There's way more evidence for the latter. Dude, could not agree more. And this is the thing. I mean, I was watching old, like, 90s news and TV shows and commercials. There's been an effort for diversity for a long time. Like, and you know, it should be merit-based. And again, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, systemic racism doesn't exist. Yes, it does. Look at the slave, runaway slave patrol badge versus the sheriff's badge. Like, there's a long documented history. The 14th Amendment, I mean, it's that simple. Every single person across the political spectrum should be a nationalist. Like, duh. It's more respectable to have solidarity with people abroad, but nationalism is step one. Yes, very well said. Also, did you see Trump has been doing some interviews? God damn it! And I didn't pull the clips of this. I might have to do a midweek stream. But Trump was on Gutfeld, and he was making a joke about Biden, saying Biden says we got to stop MAGA. That's Make America Great Again. You want to stop Make America Great Again? You want to stop America from being great again? It's like, yeah, they've turned, having pride in your country and wanting to, like, keep things good into a racist thing. Anyway, sorry that I ducked out before I went through the comments, guys. Hopefully some of you see this. Maybe I'll post them up as a separate clip. Thank you all for sticking around, especially all you guys. Truth Violates, you're here every week, man. I appreciate you and your feedback and comments. And again, you guys take good care of yourselves out there, and we'll see you next time.
Joy, 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 joy.